Hello and welcome to another episode of Byte-sized Haskell. I figured today would be a good time to talk about a very common pattern that is used across a number of libraries and in the actual consumption of those libraries, and how do we think about and use the multitude of Haskell libraries that do exist. And I also remember this being a concept that at first really confused the heck out of me because I never understood where or when we would want to use it or why we even needed it. And I think actually part of that came from being in an object-oriented, mutable data background where there are different tricks around this kind of idea. So the real use case at the high level that we are going to be looking at is, what if we want to write a library, right? Or maybe we are the consumer of the library. That's always a possibility too. But what if we want to write a library where the user can perform an action, right? An arbitrary action of their choice, sometimes I guess called you could think of it as a hook in more conventional object-oriented programming. But what if we want to allow for the user to perform some sort of action optionally, right? So they don't have to perform the action, but they might want to, and we want to give them the ability to kind of hook into what we've done so they can provide some sort of function, right, to perform an action. And so, of course, there's a very, if we were to do this in a more object-oriented way, we could have, of course, just say, we could, of course, have something like this, right? Like, we could say something like optional hook, where an optional hook is something that wraps a maybe with some sort of data type. And this would actually be incorrect because we would need the optional hook from A to B. We need the constraints. We need the arguments in the head of the new type. But we don't necessarily want to do this. And then also if we do this, it kind of just makes more work for us to build a library, and we have to make more functions that is going to give more options to the user and might be more confusing. And so the common trick that I have seen both in the libraries that I've used and even just in some of the libraries that I built myself or in my consumption of the libraries is that this is where these kind of silly looking functions of ID and const actually come into play. And so I'll start with the case of ID, right? And so ID, it looks so stupid because you're like, well, it literally does nothing. Like it factually does absolutely nothing. And that is the entire point of the function, is that it does nothing. Sometimes we actually want that, right? So, I've used either here as an example, and either is a function that allows us to reduce an either, right? And so if we look at the key parts of the function, right, we see that we go from an either to some sort of other data type. And if we understand the piece of the either, we know that we either have an A, some data type A, it could be a bool, or some data type B, right? Let's say that's an int, right? So we have a bool and an int, and we want to convert both to a string or something. We can absolutely do that with either, right? We can absolutely do that with either, and we can say, something like x equals either, what's the way to, either a bool, right? A bool, so we're going to say just quickly here that if it's true, that it is a hey. If it's false, it is a hello and then that's our first argument. That's how we are going to deal with the bool. And then we're going to write a function here that we are just going to say show, right? So let's just make this a little bit more clear what we're doing here. We're just going to show x. And then that means that we have a data type here, which is the type of either bool or int. And the output of this, right, is going to be a string, because both of these are going to, in their own way, convert from either a bool to a string or from an int to a string. And that's great, right? That's a very useful function. It's a very powerful function. And there's a million cases where we might need to do that. But let's say now even, there's kind of two cases, right? We're either the creator of either, we're very foundational, or we are using the library and, we want to build a function. We want to build this kind of idea effectively, right? We want to build from right, which is, we don't know how exactly, right? So I'm going to put this as a mystery, but we're going to say from right is going to take an either a B to a C. Yes, and so in the case of from right, how are we going to actually? How should we actually? We want to provide this as a sort of library to users of our library, and we don't want to kind of reinvent the wheel. One way that we can do this is by using either and ID. So let's do this right now. So we are going to say from right. So if we have from right, the logic that we want to do is we want to find a way to go from B to C. And we don't want to have to pass an argument for the A function. So I guess the way that we're going to have to do that actually in this context is that we are going to, this is a bit of a made up example here, but we are going to say that we're going to have to say we have a very nice case. And I will get into a real example at the end of this that I've used myself. But we are going to say we have a really nice case of we either have already the end result, or we have something we need to transform into the C. Right? So we either have, let's say, a string, or we have an integer which needs to be converted to a string. And so the way that we're going to do this is we are going to say either ID, f, right? We're going to have this function of from right, and we are able to just build it quickly like that, right? So this actually checks out, right? Because ID fits exactly what we need. We know that we need something from A to C, but A is actually, in this context, right? Like it is already C. C in this case is a string, and so if we already have a string, we don't need to do anything to that string to output a string and keep a well-typed system. And so that's the way we can do that. Very simply as well, we could say from left, and I guess in this case we would have, let's do A here, let's do B, and then we need a way to go from A to B. Or actually, let's just keep it as C as the output, and we'll just do this here. And then this would be from left. So we have a B in the left, and we need to go to a C. So this is going to be from a B to C, kind of like a business, I suppose. And in this case, all we're going to need to do is just rewrite this by doing a simple changing around of the expressions. right? And so now, like, we've done a bunch of really like really awesome code here, right? Where we have the ability to go from right to left, to handle an either in a neat way. Right? Even though this is not much code here, this is quite useful. And the reason for that is because ID is kind of this, like, you can kind of think of it as like a little secret weapon that allows us to reuse a function, right? A higher order function, most specifically, quite like this, right? So we have, there's a number of Haskell functions and libraries with these Haskell functions that you're going to see in the wild that do have higher kinded types. Or sorry, that are higher order functions. You might, I think this is actually probably something I did right back when I started, is I asked myself, like, just what if I don't want to do that? Or like, is there a simpler function that I want to use? And it ultimately just came down to understanding that ID and const are these really simple functions which allow you to just kind of fill in the hole, to satisfy the higher order function with the argument it is looking for, and go from there. So that is all that I will say about that. I will show an actual real example, and I'm just going to pause in the meantime. And now here's an actual real example I used in the past week of actually using ID twice, right? So I wanted to basically, I'm not sure if there's a better way to do this, but ultimately this is just the result of the thinking that I did. And perhaps there's a cuter way that I could have done this. But ultimately I had a system that, elsewhere in my code, I am providing either this concept of a script or a system module. And so this is actually for a package where I am building a Haskell executable from scratch. Right, I'm writing the executable source code myself in Haskell. And so I do a bit of analysis, and I find I either have a script, which I cannot touch, or a system module, which I can interact with from user input. Now, in dealing with this either, I want to build this into this concept of a located module, aka I have a script or something, and I know where to write it. And so both of these concepts of a script and a system module have this concept of a locate. I'm actually using another thing here called bymap, which allows me to kind of do something actually very similar to what either is doing, come to think of it. And I turn both of them into a located module, right? And so I'm going to bimap this over, and I'm going to have either A, right? The A's being a located module type. And so in that case, I just want to go from this, now not useful either of located module to just simply a located module. And so the way that I can do that, right? The way that I can actually write this conceptually, reduce either, right? If we have an either AA, and I want just an A, then I can simply say that this is either ID. I'm just going to put this here for the sake of it. This is an either ID X, and that will reduce the either to an A, as long as I have the correct typed A on both sides. And so that's all. I'm not going to ramble in this one, as I often do. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please always give me tons of feedback. If you hate this video, that's great. Let me know. And see you next time.